Yeah, let's move on to our next topic, which I suppose if you are not a regular listener to OTC, you may not have heard of Rúben Amorim. He may be the best known coach that you've never heard of. I think most people now over the last few days football interested would certainly know who we are talking about. He's the person that Manchester United would like to replace Erik ten Hag by all accounts. But what do we need to know? Or more importantly, David, what should Manchester United expect from Rúben Amorim? How different is he to Ten Hag?
Yeah, that's going to be the big question that everybody, wants an answer to. I think I'd say when Amorim came to Sporting as a coach, a former Benfica boy, so from a rival club as well. I think we saw an overall culture shift of the club. So for a start, it's probably as news to Man United is, fans as he is. And then we saw, I think, in gradual time, development of a new system that he brought in. He was very much wedded to his 3-4-3. It's kind of now changed to a 3-2-5 in the build-up. And his team currently sits, played 9, won 9, conceded 2 goals so far this season. So it's continuing. There's a freshness still there. So from a United point of view, that will be, again, something that they want to hear, that despite him arriving and being there a few years, that he can retain a freshness, retain a positivity there, because under Erik ten Hag, of course, everything very much petered out. With a few really eye-watering results and performances. So I think when it comes to as a coach, I think Amorim's structure is more personalised and kind of, how he views the players that he has and the structure he can create from them. I thought Ten Hag was still a little bit kind of obsessed with what he had at Ajax, what he produced there, and to see if he could completely carbon copy it at United. I think we saw that by the individuals he brought in. I think we saw that at times when he did try to implement his tactics. Whereas I think Amorim will be a bit more open-minded, versatile when it comes to moving United on and what he wants to play. There's been a lot made about this particular, 3 at the back system that he wants. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Amorim came in and he never used that at all. I think he'll look at who he's got available and what he can do with them. I think that's important. I think United needs somebody who can oversee the club in that way, that can, be versatile and not be, get caught up in what I think Ten Hag did at the end, his own process.
Yeah, Nicky, when David says he's won 9, played 9, won 9, only conceded twice, you can see why Manchester United have gone for him. And necessarily, we are comparing him to Erik ten Hag, who looked very impressive when Manchester United went for him from Ajax as well. There is a danger, isn't there, that just because on paper this looks like the right guy, that we know that Manchester United have got some fundamental problems that they don't seem to have managed to surpass with a litany of managers, you could argue, or coaches, you could argue. How will we know? How will we know that this is the right person for that job?
I think the short answer is no one can until he takes it. And look, we're on the Continent podcast. My time is spent covering European football more than English football. So the Manchester United, I don't know what to call it, curse, where it seems like they just swallow up managers and spit them out without them quite delivering in the way that many of these managers have been able to do in different contexts is a mystery that you'll have to find your answers for, I suppose, the listeners on a different show. I can't answer all of that. But I think that you can't judge any individual by the results of a completely different individual. Amorim is a different person to Ten Hag and every other Manchester United manager who's been through since Ferguson. And I think that, first of all, need to stress quite how astonishing his performance has been since moving into management, because it's a short career so far, but it has been just basically constant success. He takes over at Casapia, which is a semi-professional club, and does well there, and and then goes on to Braga's B team, basically wins every game in Braga's B team. Braga need a new manager. They promote him. He wins almost every game in charge of Braga. Sporting pay a 10 million euro release clause, which is crazy money for a coach who's barely started his coaching career, which is an immediate indication of how highly they think of him. And the next season, so his first full season at Sporting, he wins their first league title in 19 years. It's an astonishing rise, and the consistency of it is extraordinary. To me, one of the things that stands out actually, and one of the reasons that makes me think he might be strong enough for this, is a story I've heard about that starting out in his career, because he'd had that very first coaching experience at Casapia, which ended actually because there was some controversy about him not having all of his badges done yet. And Casapia, who, again, lower league club that he'd been managing, were at risk of getting punished for that with fines or point deductions. It was a whole thing. And so he steps away from that situation and gets everything resolved. And then the next step for him is going to be a professional club, and there's B teams for some of the top clubs in Portugal who are interested because they've seen how he's done. And the club he supported his whole life, Benfica, offer him a job in charge of their B team. And you'd think, well, this is a no-brainer. It's the club you love. It's the club you feel affiliation to. But he takes a look at it, and the deal's going to be that he's not going to have total autonomy over things like team selection, because it's going to be in the shadow of the first team and they want him to work around their constraints. And he says no, because he wants to go to a situation where he feels in control, where he feels he can follow his ideas and implement what he thinks is going to work. And that strength of self-awareness and confidence in your own ideas, I think, is something that is very impressive in a young coach. And I think it's something that I am fascinated to see. Of course, we're not across the line with this deal of him going to Manchester United, so it's still an if rather than a certainty at time of recording. But if he takes that Manchester United job, I'm going to have to believe, if he had the strength of will to do that at the start of his career, he won't do it without believing that he's going to have the control he wants to make things how he wants. Now, look, there's a long history of managers who've been misled on that by all sorts of clubs. But I have to believe if he does say yes to this, it will be because he thinks he can do something. And I can't say for certain that he'll succeed, but given his track record, I'm flipping fascinated to see him try.
Well, it's not easy to get the kind of praise that Andy Brassel's lauded on him, to get it from Andy Brassel. I mean, at the end of the day, this guy has got to be good. If Andy's saying that he's turned Sporting into the best team in Portugal with very little resources as well, we shouldn't forget, David. But then you look at that, I mean, on the one hand, fair enough, it's clear Portuguese league is different from the Premier League. The Portuguese Prem is different from our Premier League. But also, are you not nervous when somebody who's done it with very limited budget goes to a team where there's unlimited cash resources and, it should be mathematically an improvement, but does that not worry you? He's going to a big, big club now. No disrespect to Sporting.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I don't think Man United have unlimited resources anymore if we look at their financial results. So he might find himself in a common place in terms of operating on a shoestring at times, I do believe. And on that, that United squad isn't terrible. These players don't just become bad overnight. It's going to be his job to work with that group, extract a lot more from them. There's certain players there who I don't think have performed well for a long, long time. There's also players who don't perform consistently there. And that's going to be his job. And it's Sporting. He's not had the luxury of just constantly moving players in or out. This largely Premier League attitude. If the new toy doesn't work, then throw it away. There'll always be another new one to go and buy. I don't think he's going to have that at United. I think his remit's going to be like, look, we spent a lot of money the past couple of years. Yes, these have been guys that the old manager wanted, but this is what you got with for now. We want you to extract a lot more from them. And above all, no matter what, number one thing is to give United a clear identity and structure in the way that they play. Because I think for 2 years they've been playing with no genuine identity or personality at all.
And news just in, Nicky, you say that the Amorim deal is not done yet, but I can tell you that the news just in from the Guardian newspaper is that it is oven ready, so to speak, but it won't be taken out of the oven before the international break. So it's a done deal, but yeah, well, you've got something to come back on that. You know more than the Guardian, do you, Nicky?
No, it's not that I know more. I just think it's a fun way that this is unfolding, because by delaying until after the international break means that Amorim gets to take charge of Sporting's game against Manchester City in the Champions League, which of course Manchester United fans might even be happy about.